You're listening to The Journey with Ellie and Erin. Join us every week as we talk about all the things woo, wise and wonderful with our guests and have the bigger, braver, bolder conversations that women should be having so that we can be the change the world needs. Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of our new show, The Journey with Ellie and Erin. I am Erin, that is Ellie, and we are really excited to be here today, aren't we, Ellie?
Oh, so excited. It's been something that's been in the making for a wee while, and to actually be able to record today and get the first episode under our belt is something that is, really exciting, and looking forward to exploring all of the things that we've got to explore today.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing that we want to sort of talk about is what is the journey with Ellie and Erin all about? And, you know, this is something new for us. We haven't had a radio show before. We do have a podcast though, so we're not completely unfamiliar to talking a whole pile of bollocks all at once. It's what we do. We're good at it. And so that's part of what we're looking to do here is to come and share what we know and tap into our inner wisdom and all of the things, but we're also planning to have guests every episode, women who are bigger and bolder and braver in the world, because of the work that they do and how they do it. And so we'll be having some really rich conversations with incredible women over the course of the next 12 months. Do you want to describe for us, Ellie, a little bit about how we came to be in these seats together doing this work? Because I love how
Absolutely.
you tell the story.
With lots of humour and lightness. No, seriously, the way we actually came together was purely by chance, but in many ways down to fate. So we met through a group that we were both doing some moderating in, which, looking back, just seems really not the sort of thing I'd have done generally, and I don't think it's the sort of thing that Erin would have done, and yet we were both in this space. And at the same time, I was looking to plan a summit which was all about self-acceptance for women, and I just put a call out for people who might want to be interviewed and be a part of it. And Erin put her hand up, and her comment was, I'd love to be involved, but I'm not sure I've got anything to say. So I thought, well, okay, that's really selling yourself. We'll jump on a call and see what happens there. And basically, for someone who didn't have a lot to say, she had a whole lot to say. And we kind of haven't stopped talking since then, really, is the way that we we have many words. You will know this when you start to listen to us. But what we found was what we were both doing in terms of supporting women to become better versions of themselves. We were both doing it, but from very different approaches. And we realized that if we came together to do the work, we would get a much deeper transformation. We would help women get where they wanted to much quicker and be able to do what we know we're both put on this earth to do, which is to be an agent of change, to make sure that things don't stay the same. And I think what's very interesting is, as we've explored this journey together, it's become clearer and clearer that we are basically two sides of the same coin. So we are very much opposites in many ways, and yet there is a deep connection within the way that we approach life and just everything, really. So it's a really interesting relationship, and it's incredibly harmonious a lot of the time. And then there can be some fiery sparks every now and then, because I have to own the fact I am a Scorpio. So, and I'm not just a Scorpio sun, I'm a Scorpio rising, and I'm a Cancer moon. So I am the most emotional thing that could possibly be in this partnership. And that certainly is part of, I think, the one of the lessons that I've learned is being partners and working with somebody who's so willing to accept my whole self. And that has been a real delight to learn that I can show up as me and there's never any judgment. And that's something that through my journey has become quite important to me. But yeah, we basically joined through fate. We were put in the same space and decided to go from there. And it's been a really fun space to be in, and it's just the beginning. We've both said we're doing this till we move on to the next phase of, well, death, I suppose. But we're in it for the long term, and excited to share all of the things with the people listening. So that kind of the
Yeah.
summary you were hoping for? I hope I
Yeah,
told it in my
yeah, like
usual fun way.
I mean, it's a marriage of great minds, right? No, I think the way that you tell it is perfect because we get a really clear idea of how you see the collaboration and the friendship and all of the things inside of that. And for me, I think what I want to add to it and and really enhance it with, I guess, is that we are very opposite, and in a lot of ways. And you're right, there is never any judgment, and that's for me something that's really new. Um, I don't tend to have a lot of really close friendships historically, and it takes me a lot to fully invest myself in a relationship. But I can honestly say that after the first conversation with you, that was where I was fully invested. I was like, actually, I just need more of this person in my life. And that was something that was very new for me, but something that I was willing to explore, and gladly so were you. So here we are. And I think we've been working together now for about 18 months, roughly. And I think the joy in that is that we have navigated an awful lot over that time. And I think the ease of our friendship, and the foundations that we stand on in our business and in our lives, has meant that over that 18 months we've achieved a lot more than people might normally expect to in such a short period of time. I mean, I certainly feel like an old married couple in a lot of ways. um, and I jokingly refer to you as my work wife, but it's not the honeymoon period. It's like the, we've been married 50 years kind of period. Um, but I'm always excited to be in this space with you. I'm always grateful. And the thing that I love about it is that it allows me to be bolder and braver and to play bigger in the world than I would by myself. And and that's ultimately what we do with our clients, right? That's what we do with our people. That's what we do with our friends. That's what we do with our partners. Is we encourage them to find their own power in the world and find their own truth and explore that and expose that to the world in whatever way feels slightly uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
and so, I'm always grateful that at the core of all of that work is you.
Oh,
So glad to be here with you. And yeah, I see us being old and grey and doing this together. I mean, that might be next week, but we'll see.
well, I was going to say, there's definitely I'm having to pull out a lot more grey hairs at the moment than than I used to, uh, because I'm
I
determined
mean,
to I'm go grey gracefully, as my mother always said she was going to, and then has been dyeing her hair for the last 25 years. So I'm not sure how graceful that actually means, but it's quite interesting. And the other thing that I think is really lovely about the difference between us both is that we both have young children. I have two daughters. I have a 5-year old, or 5.5-year old, called Emily, who is a mini version of me in many, many ways and not in many ways. So challenges me on a deep soul level, but I also know her deeper than anyone else in the world. So she's a really interesting wee girl. And then Phoebe, who is just, you will hear about our children throughout the episodes because they provide us with a lot of entertainment, um, challenge, and yeah, we'll just
joy.
leave it at those two for now. Love, there's lots of love there. But so I have
Yeah.
my two girls, and I'm really determined that the world has to be different for them as they grow up. The things that I experienced being a woman, I worked in sport for many years. I just can't allow that to be the case for them. So it's right. Well, what do we need to do to start having the conversations to change it? And that's very much where this idea of the journey has come from. It's about talking to other women and finding out how have they got to where they are? What have been the mountains that they've climbed? What have been the things that they've struggled with to achieve, but actually was so worth putting the effort in to overcome them. And what lessons are there in that? I firmly believe, and it's something that we stand on as a partnership, that we are about collaborating and we're about growing and amplifying everybody's voice. So hearing different stories from different people is really important for us, and hopefully for the listeners. And we really are about sharing, our whole truth. You'll hear what we believe, and you'll learn, probably as you get to know us a bit better. I process audibly, so I will start off in one place and I may very well end up somewhere else. So all I'll say is bear with. We will get there eventually. So
It is likely we will end up somewhere we're completely unexpected, but that's part of the joy of knowing Ellie. So it's
and then
good.
so I
It's
have
good.
two young daughters and Erin has two slightly older boys. And why does that, how does that impact the work that you do and impact the work that we do together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really key actually, because again, it's that two halves of the same coin. My sons are a little bit older, so Asher is just about to turn 11, and we're approaching all of the grossness that comes with being just about teen, and we have Luca who is 7, just about 8, and they're very different. Asher is, he's a Libra, so he's quite an airy, um, I don't want to say fantasy kind of a guy, but he lives in a fantasy world, and he does his own thing, and he's very, he challenges me in so many ways because I'm a Taurus sun and a Pisces moon, so I'm very, you know feminine in the way that I see the world and see myself in the world and process emotion. And here he is with his eerie and fiery kind of thing going on that he teaches me so much. And I don't think there is a greater teacher in my life than him. And then Luca is a Scorpio. Love these Scorpios in my life, and he is he is just everything that our family was missing before he came along. He pushes all of us to love more and to be more open about how we feel about things, to explore more. He, like you, Ellie, he's very much that researcher. He likes to know things and understand things, and he's deeply curious about the world and all it contains. And um, so that they're both brilliant children to have in my life. They're also the bane of my existence many days of the week. um, but I love them dearly, and for me, raising two boys presents a real, like, I feel a real weight of responsibility around that, more so probably than I would if they were girls. I think um, I feel like the challenge for me is that if I'd had daughters, I would have felt more responsible for stepping up myself. Um, but for boys, it's almost like I can't show them how to be in the world with their eyes. I have to show them with my eyes and hope that they see what I'm trying to reflect for them. And so there is a real weight of response. I want them to be men who see women with the eyes that I see women with, but who also honor their own talents and strengths and the way that they see the world, and somehow bring that into harmony with each other. And that's something that I've definitely had moments of struggle and moments of um, real joy with. And so it's an ongoing journey, but the best part of my journey so far in my own life, for sure. So it does allow us as a collaboration as well to constantly reflect on that big vision that we have around the world being a place where women can thrive through being authentic to themselves, and that men can thrive through being more open and accepting and willing to allow than they've been taught in the past. So it is a big vision. but we're doing our work, and we're doing it with courage and with, some sort of level of confidence that we know what we're doing, mostly. Um,
I was going to go with conviction as the C.
mm,
We're very
that's
convicted in it, and we're kind of vaguely working out what we're doing.
that's probably more accurate, sure. Yeah, so it's a real joy to sort of come from that place of um, opposites having attracted, but at the same time, it's almost like we run parallel. We're not perpendicular opposites with a single point that crosses over. We're constantly noticing about each other, parts of our own journeys that reflect and that run alongside each other, and that enhance our, like, you enhance my own journey and my own life in ways that I don't fully understand and don't fully have the words to articulate. And I think that what I want from this adventure, the journey, and the guests that we have on and the audience that we build, is for more people to find their lives enhanced by your presence, but also that they understand that even when they feel completely alone in what is happening for them, to recognize that inside everyone is that very same feeling.
Mm,
And it's wrapped in bravado, and it's wrapped in, confidence, and it's wrapped in arrogance, and it's wrapped in all of these other things. But inside everyone, we're all on our own journey, and we're all doing our own thing. And there will be moments where you feel, surrounded by support and love. And there'll be moments where you feel like you're on the edge of a cliff all by yourself with nothing to grab. And the beauty of knowing that is that we can allow that to be without feeling like that has to shape how we react to it.
I love how you put that, because that's so true, and I certainly really resonate with those words as you were saying them, about that feeling of being alone and not knowing how to navigate your way forward, but at the same time not wanting somebody to do it for you. It's being able to actually know that you can move forward and you can stumble and there are people alongside you. And I think that's the difference now with the work that we do together, is that through everything, whether it's business related or personally, at things to do with my personal life, I know that if I need that hand to pull me up and to say, hey, you're okay, you've got this, we can keep moving forward, I have you there. And that's such a deep honor to have. And it's something that I really feel has changed everything for me, to be able to not be the same. If someone would have asked me, "Oh, how are you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine." "Do you need any help with that?" "Nope, I'm perfectly capable of doing everything all on my own." That would be my general response to everything. I've spent pretty much my whole life being the one who fixes stuff for other people and being absolutely fine to do stuff on my own. And what I've realized is that I'm so much better when I allow other people to help me, and it feels deeply uncomfortable, and I still don't do it as much as I probably could. But I now have a space where I can practice doing that. I can practice asking for help. I can practice speaking what's really going on and not worrying about being judged for it, not worrying about what they might be thinking or what stories are being told. It's literally just a space to be. And that's something that, if you haven't ever had that before, then hopefully this space is somewhere that you can, when listening to us, you can just sit and be and know that you're not on your own. You're not the only person feeling like this. We all have those moments of pure, oh fuck, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know how to move forward. And there is a place here for you. We will always hold that space because it's so important, and it's absolutely changed the way that not only I show up for myself, but how I'm able to show up for my children, for my husband, for my friends. It changes everything when you have a space to really be who you are and not worry about being cool or being funny or being liked. It's just, you can just be. And that's something that I know Erin will really love, because she's all about the being and I've always been about the doing. And I've just basically given her the full, like, yeah, being's totally the place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that did, massively appeal to me, but, and that's another part of the duality of what we do, isn't it? Is that, you do come from quite a masculine approach to things, and
I'd
what
like
about
to
to
get
say
shit
being
done is
then? Hmm.
basically what you're saying.
Yes, but I think the difference between the two of us is you like to get stuff done, without caring about how you feel while you're doing it. You just like, "Just wanna get it done." I'm
Yep.
much more like, "Oh, I don't feel good doing this, so I don't wanna do it." And,
Yeah.
yeah, we do have, a really beautiful counterbalance, I think, for each other in that respect. I do more these days, than I would have otherwise. Um, but I think you're also a bit more conscious sometimes of being and allowing
Mm.
yourself to rest or allowing yourself to be supported. And so, that's part of the beauty of what we do, I think, is that we probably need to talk a little bit about what we do, I think, because, we're walking around the edges of it a little bit, but, to
Yeah.
kind of to fill in a little bit of gap there. So what am I? I'm a spiritual mentor, I guess, is probably the easiest way to describe it. I'm a channel for the universe, I guess, is probably another way to describe it. I'm a psychic medium, so I'm connected to spirit. I communicate with spirit. I communicate with ancestors and all of that sort of stuff. But I also work with energy. So, I'm talking about like elemental energies. We've talked a little bit about astrology, and that'll be sprinkled in through just about everything that we do. Um, and a little bit about human design and that sort of stuff as well. And the elemental energies of, fire and earth and water and air, and um, then there's the masculine and the feminine as well, and we talk a lot about that and how that shows up in how we engage with the world. Um, and there's lots of little bits and pieces that come forward at various times, from my toolkit around all of that stuff. I am very much someone who, so in terms of background, I never really was very spiritual. I didn't have a spiritual upbringing of any kind, not even, the religious type of spirituality. And then, a couple of years ago, I had a reading with a psychic for the first time, and she said to me that I was exactly the same as her. And so I, laughed and was like, whatever. And so she challenged me to prove her wrong, basically, and I couldn't. So I immediately started to have all of these different experiences and things come through, and now here I am, kind of learning how to serve from a place of honoring myself in that process as well. For the first probably 12 to 18 months of that journey, I felt very much like I was just the conduit, and that I had no place in that space. And so now, since working with you, I've certainly navigated my way to a point where I feel a little bit more like I have some power over what I'm here to do. Um, but that's kind of the stuff that I do, and the perspective that I come to my work from, is very much that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and I'm deeply connected and much more comfortable, I think, with the spiritual side of that than the human side of that. I certainly have had human struggle, and still struggle a lot with my humanness at times. And so, that's kind of been my journey, I guess, in terms of how did I end up sitting here talking to you. And you have quite a different journey. Like your spiritual journey has been a lot slower, but you've also, had you kind of work more in that human space,
Yeah.
don't you?
So for me, the journey really started in terms of And I don't think it's just my spiritual journey. It was probably the journey of learning who I was and actually connecting with who, who Ellie really is. For a really long time, I lived very much in the shadows of who I was. I didn't really know, and I wasn't really confident in putting that out to the world. I really remember in my 20s just having this deep sense of unease about who I was. I never felt comfortable with a lot of people, and that tracked very much into my 30s. So it would have been about, oh no, it would have been early 30s. So it had been about 10 years ago. 11 years ago, I just had this real moment, and it was almost like a pinpoint moment in life. I was sitting on a train going down to London. I was living in the UK. You'll be able to tell from my accent. I'm originally from England. I've been over in New Zealand for about 9 years now, I think it is, but I still maintain my British accent. So I was sitting on a train going down to London. In fact, no, it must be longer ago than that then, because I've been here for such a long time. I'll work the numbers out, and I'll put a timeline together at some stage. But anyway, I was on the train getting into London, and the rain was hammering on the roof of the carriage, and nobody was talking. Everybody was just in this sort of bubble. Everyone's staring forwards or looking at their newspaper or looking at their book and not making eye contact with anyone. And I just had this overwhelming sense of sadness and grief, almost, about, is this it? Is this what life is about? It just felt awful. There didn't feel any joy. There was no joy in my life at that particular moment. And I think looking back on it, I'd been making excuses for behaviors, and I'd been making excuses for why I felt like it, really busy. I was commuting 4 hours a day. All of these, none of this helped. But actually, what was really missing was that connection to who I am. It had just been completely severed, and there was just almost, we were floating separately. The real me and the person that I was showing up were really quite different. So it was in that moment I decided that things had to be different. And there's one thing my husband calls me, is a dog with a bone. If I want to do something, I will do it, and I will get it done, and I will do it then. There's none of this waiting around for the right time. We're getting it done and sorted. So I, almost instantaneously, I remember messaging mum and just saying, I think I need to talk to somebody. Have you got any ideas? And she came back and said, oh, why don't you chat to Elaine, who was a good friend of hers? And I knew Elaine anyway, and she's just one of these incredible people who is deeply spiritual, but not in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. She just has this warmth and openness and at the time I hadn't explored my spirituality at all. It wasn't anything there. There was, I always laugh and say, emotionally, I was just, didn't have any clue what was going on with my emotions. They were all over the place. Mentally, my thoughts were just foggy, and I couldn't do it. Physically, I was drinking far too much. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't nourishing my physical body. My energy was just zapped. Spiritually, there was nothing. It was just, a bleak landscape of nothingness. So I had this opportunity to connect with Elaine, and she did some crystal healing, and she just did some work with me, and it changed everything. It was like suddenly somebody gave me permission to explore more. Like, I wasn't this two-dimensional person anymore. There were depths to me that I hadn't even realized were there, and I was being given permission to explore them. And I think that's what's been really interesting about my journey, is this opportunity to dive into the different aspects, to really be open about who I am, what I stand for, what do I believe, what don't I believe, what have I believed for years, and then when I actually explore it, isn't true in the slightest. So being able to do that, and do it over a relatively long period of time. I did a crystal healing course, was my first step into that development. So even though I do very much focus on the human stuff, I'm about the beliefs, I'm about the emotions, that those thoughts, those stories we tell ourselves. It fascinates me. It's where my detective element of my my Scorpio-ness comes in. I want to explore, and I want to help people explore and find out, and be like, isn't that interesting? Why do we think like that? Why is such a question I use? But underpinning all of that is this deep connectedness to the fact that we are greater than just ourselves. We are so much more than that. And I think it was kind of finding a space where both of those pieces could live together, is what's happened in the last 18 months since, meeting you, Erin. It's been possible to be be okay with my spiritual self. I haven't needed to grow dreadlocks, um, only eat chickpeas, wear hemp. I've been able to actually be able to own my spiritual self and be fascinated in all of the work that I do, and find this place where I can basically be an empowerment coach and mentor to women who want to do that, who are exploring both their humanness and their spiritual self, and find a way for them to live comfortably together, so we have our whole rather than just these different bits of us that kind of sort of bobble along together with no integration. So basically, I'm an empowerment coach and mentor. I think I forgot to say that right at the start. So I told you we'll get here
Excellent.
eventually. We just might not necessarily know which direction we're going in. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll just take the scenic route.
yeah,
It's fine.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think so much of your journey reflects mine in a lot of ways, and yet they're so different. I mean, I get the sense that you really struggled with your identity a little bit in your, in your 20s, and kind of went through this phase of, I guess, just kind of almost numbing yourself to the fact that that was how you felt.
Mm,
And I resonate strongly with that. Mine was a little bit earlier. I think I probably sort of went through that in my late teens and early 20s. I mean, by the time I was 25, I was engaged to my wife. So, I had an earlier kind of evolution into that time of my life than you. But I think the underlying themes are all there. The feeling disconnected, the feeling like, is this all there is? You used alcohol, I used drugs. Like it wasn't all that different, I guess. And we've both had different different upbringings and different journeys around understanding who we are. And my identity has always been a really thorny thing for me, and something that I understand a lot more now than I ever have. But it's certainly taken 40 years to get there. um and so I love that you can kind of see those parallels, even though we've lived quite different lives. And I think that's probably true for a lot of women, that there will be those common themes that drive us forward in our lives, the feeling disconnected from ourselves, the feeling like, and I think that's really common, isn't it, when you get to adulthood and you've lived a life where you're told what to be, you're told how to be, you're told what to do, what's acceptable behavior. And then you go out into the world and you try to carry all of that with you, but there's also this massive expanse in front of you that's challenging you to say, actually, how much of that do you need?
mm,
Like, how much of that is actually yours? And until you have um, someone, and I think that someone is really key, that person who draws a line in the sand and says, actually, from here on, you get to choose, and you won't always make the right choice, but as long as it's your choice, it's going to be all right.
mm,
um, I think that was certainly the changing point for me, and it sounds like for you as well. And I think a lot of women will resonate with that, and so that's part of why we have these conversations, right? Part of the reason that we do this work and expose our own personal stuff in such a public forum
mm,
is because I think if I'd known what you like, if I'd known that about myself and about you um 20 years ago, I would have had a very different
mm,
experience. And I think there's a lot to be said for just knowing that whatever it looks like, whatever shit you're carrying, whatever things you're holding about yourself and about the world that feel heavy and hard, um, knowing that others are experiencing the same kinds of things and that it's actually perfectly okay
mm.
is really empowering, I think.
Yeah,
And we need more of that.
that's so true. That realizing that you're normal in whatever's going on is just, it's so important. We're brought up with so much pressure to meet a certain set of standards, that this is what is real and what is acceptable, and yet those standards are, I'm calling BS on them, because they're actually just, they're made up. There's nobody can live to those standards, and yet we're
Yeah.
all told that's what we should be doing. And for me, it was getting to this stage where suddenly I was like, I'm genuinely never going to get there. Why am I trying so hard to be something that I'm never going to achieve? I'm spending so much of my time thinking about it. I just don't want to do it anymore. And I think that does
Yeah.
come with age. I think there is an element of it that is, as you get older, you become much less bothered. I don't know if that's the right word, or the thoughts of others don't necessarily impact you as much. And I don't mean you stop caring what other people think, because one of the big things that, has been part of my journey this year has been learning that there will be people out there who do not like me. There will be people out there.
Crazy
I
bastards.
know, right? There will be people who don't agree with what I say. There will be people who, you know, don't want to hear, don't want to connect, don't want to know what we've got to say. And actually, that's okay, because that's not about me. And being able to learn that other people's thoughts, beliefs, views, behaviors is wholly about them and nothing to do with me has literally
Mm.
changed everything for me. And it's been a recent thing. So it's that, it's not that I don't care anymore what people think. I just don't let it change how I think about myself. I put
Yeah.
myself front and center. And that's been a massive learning. And it's something that I'm trying to teach my children at a much younger age, that so they don't have to do this learning. But as 40-year-old women, Erin, you turned 40 this year. I turned 43 in a couple of months. Because we are at that stage, we're a generation that's kind of stuck in the middle almost. Our parents, our mums, many of them didn't do the work and don't necessarily understand the work, and don't have any interest in it, and that's fine. But we have children who are just, through the way that life is now, that emotions are talked about, and we have so much more awareness of the fact that we are mental, physical, emotional and spiritual beings all in one. That's starting to become much more mainstream. But we're kind of stuck in the middle, that we're doing this work in our 40s, and it's actually almost like, what's the point of it? Is it just for us? And I don't believe it's for us. I believe when we do this work, we help our parents let go of some of their things. So it shifts the people who went before us, but it's also helping the people coming after us. And it's such a pivotal role. And I think we're only just realizing now how important our role is. Does that,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that ancestral stuff is that, I mean, Erin just is amazing around this stuff, but it's also something that really interests you, as well as being something you
Yeah.
just know. How important is it that we are
Yeah. I
doing
mean,
the work we're doing?
I think the thing is, we often think that we live in a vacuum, right? Like things are happening to us, and we get stuck in that thought process. It's a very mental process, I think, where we get stuck in, you know, I'm the only one that feels this way, or uh, if this happens and it makes me feel uncomfortable or upset or angry or whatever, that I exist in a vacuum and it doesn't impact on anyone else. So why should anyone care? Um, that's not the case, right? Like I've said we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but we're also deeply connected energetically to the people around us, to places, to people, to things, to situations, moments in time, all have energetic connections. And so when we change ourselves in positive or negative ways, that influences the energetic connections that we have. So if we're doing the work to raise our own vibration, to be, braver, to be bolder, to be better, to be more compassionate or more loving, all of those energetic connections that we've created will be influenced by that. That's what we put out into the world. And so all of that stuff, whether it's ancestral, whether it's in relation to our children or grandchildren, that is the legacy that we're creating for generations to come. But it's also our part of the legacy from the generations that have been. And Yeah, I think it's really important that we understand the context of our human experience a little bit more.
Mm.
We don't really talk about it. Um, we sort of flirt around the edges of what it means to be human, I think, in terms of societal
Mm.
conversation. But we are just a tiny speck of sand on the beach of the universe, and we have to be really confident around what we can do in that space. And when we have the confidence that we can change ourselves, that we can connect with ourselves and do things from a place of real empowered consciousness, I think that's when we start to influence the grains of sand that lay next
Mm.
to us. And if the grains of sand that we walk on a beach shift and change under us all the time, we're never really sure of our footing. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing,
Mm.
right? Because sometimes it just leads us to nowhere. So I think, yeah, it's a really interesting kind of a concept for a lot of people to actually think about. Like, when I do the work for myself, yes, I'm doing it for myself, or I'm doing it for my children, or I'm doing it for my partner, or whatever it is that you use to drive yourself through it. Um, I think that understanding that actually it has a much, much bigger impact. The pebble drops into the water, but the ripple, it doesn't notice all the other ripples. It just notices that first impact,
Yeah.
right? And that's us.
Yeah.
We are the pebble.
Yeah.
And I love that as we navigate the work that we do with each other and with the people that we work with in our business, um, we get to see the ripples
Mm.
that they don't necessarily have awareness of, and we get to bring that to their consciousness and say, look, you're making this change, but this is happening around you because of that change.
Yeah, it's like when you have permission to make the change yourself and you start to do that, other people look at you and almost are able to take inspiration from that. And I think that's what people don't necessarily realize when they do the work on their own. And you can get a really long way working on your own. I did a huge amount on my own. I've made a quicker, faster transformation since having support from various places. But when you when you're on your own, you don't necessarily notice that you're inspiring others. And yet when you're with somebody and you can witness it, I always say the biggest privilege to being a coach is being able to see the beauty and the genius and the fire inside of the people I work with before they see it themselves. And then I get to see how it impacts others as they start to welcome it and bring it in as part of who they are. I always talk about having, it's like I've got my candle with my flame, and whose candles can I light so that they can then go on and light others as well. Because when we think about making the change, globally, if we want to change global consciousness, like the thought of doing that on my own, or even just the two of us, it's like, geez, that's a big job. How are we going to do that? Whereas if you can
Yeah.
start to be, if I can be the person that I know I'm here to be, and I can inspire others to do the same, then they can inspire others to do the same, and they can inspire others to do the same. Then actually you suddenly realize that by being authentically you, by being able to stand up for what you believe, by being okay with having the difficult conversations, by bringing these things into people's consciousness that might otherwise not be there, it means that actually we are making that difference because it is transferring out. It's that ripple, it just keeps on going. And that's something that I'm eternally grateful for being able to do with my life. It's one of those things. I worked in corporate for many years. I worked in sport. It was brilliant on paper, best job ever. It was fantastic, and I loved it, and I met some incredible people, and I wouldn't change any of it. But what I do now, in terms of being able to support others, it is soul filling. It doesn't just fill my cup, it fills my soul, to be able to see that beauty when other people can't see it, and to be able to hold up a light to them and say, hey, look in the mirror, look what you can see. It's truly joyful. And it makes me feel really passionate and really blessed to be able to do it, and to do the work with you. And I think that's what this radio show is going to be about. It's about us sharing a little bit about us, and we'll be giving sort of an overview or an update of what's been going on for us each week. So any challenges that have been coming forward, things in the world that are impacting us. We're living in unprecedented times at the moment, and I really want to. I don't think we can stress that enough. Nobody knows. Nobody's lived through what we've lived through at the moment, and it is changing everything. So if things do feel a little bit wonky, it's okay. It's that they're kind of meant to at the moment. But then these conversations that we're looking to have with women who are out there, it's just this opportunity to hear other stories and other experiences that people have had, so that we can remind everyone that anything is possible. If you're able to comprehend it, you're able to achieve it. And I really, really believe that. We're so lucky being where we are in the world, the experiences, and even though it's hard and challenging, I don't believe there's been a better time for change. And if you're interested in making that change and being a part of it, then now is the time to ignite that fire within and kind of join the movement, join the revolution. Let's do this consciously. Let's
Yeah.
empower ourselves. Let's embrace our feminine power and energy, and the masculine energy. We can't do it on our own. As we are finding, we are two parts of the same coin. We are two parts of what is needed, and that's the same with everything. We need both parts. It's not about women being the only winners. It's about everybody coming together and doing their piece to move us forward, so that life can be better and it can be more joyful, and we can make change and not worry about the crap that we've been worrying about. I'll put my soapbox
Yeah.
away now.
Well, I mean, I think that's a pretty good indicator for the people listening around what to expect from this space. You'll hear Ellie get on her soapbox about the patriarchy and tearing it down and why that's important. You'll hear me get on my soapbox about not getting stuck in the masculine striving and believing that we have a single purpose in our lives and those sorts of things. And there's lots of things that we're really passionate about. We are really passionate people, and we are very vocal when we're together, I think, about what those passions are and what we believe to be true. I mean, if you go back to our origin story, how we met, the reason that we decided to collaborate and build, an empire together, is because we firmly believed that we had wisdom, that the world needed, in our own ways. We're, not the same wisdom necessarily, but we both firmly believed that, you know, this archetype of the wise woman, is this image of, a woman in her like 70s and 80s who's hunched over and she's old and she says what she thinks and what she knows to be true, and people choose to listen or they don't, and they don't generally have nice things to say about her. And we had a conversation about what if we don't have to wait for that? What if we don't have to be an old woman who is so stuck in her desire to speak her own truth that's been locked away for so many years that she doesn't know how to allow, and all of that sort of stuff. And we were like, why should we wait? The world needs what we know now, right? And that's true for all of us. Like the world needs what we have, what we've collected over generations, over many lifetimes, in our own experiences in this space. Like we have so much wisdom within us, that we have put aside and hidden away because we're told that there are single sources of truth around everything. And that's something that we really passionately believe needs to change. My truth and Ellie's truth are not the same. My truth and anyone else's truth are not the same. I'm completely accepting of that. In fact, sometimes Ellie and I look at each other and it's almost like we know that we're on different planes around something, but there's never a need to convince the other one of why they're right or wrong or something in between. And that's really what I'm looking forward to in some of these conversations. We've got some phenomenal guests lined up some really, really incredible women out there in the world doing their work, in whatever form that takes. And being able to access their wisdom and to be able to bask in that and sit with it and allow it to kind of permeate us in ways that leave us changed without us realizing. So looking forward to all of that. I mean, I get the gift of that every day that I work with you. Um, but to have all of that come to this space and to be able to be, again, the conduit, I guess, the thing that brings that to people in a way that's accessible, and all of that is just, it's really, I'm so excited about it. This is my excited face, like I'm really excited about
Okay, one of the
it.
things you need to know is that this is Erin at her most excited. I believe that there is a bubbly, effervescent version of her, and we are going to be pulling it out somehow. But for now, this is excited.
Yeah, that is Ellie's lifelong
That's
challenge,
actually
is
my
to,
mission in life, is to
yeah,
to
yeah.
get her to gush and bubble.
Yeah. Like I said, not a single source of purpose in this lifetime, but and that's part of this as well, is that we will continue our own journeys. Like, the journey that we are on doesn't exist within this lifetime. It's a much, much bigger journey than that. And we recognize that even though we're quite comfortable with where we're at right now, that there is a lot more to do and a lot more to learn and a lot more to heal, and all of that stuff will come, and we're open to sharing all of it at this point. So I'm grateful to be here with you, Ellie.
Yeah.
I want to just, I guess, leave a little bit on a little bit of a lighter note, because we have kind of gone gone to sort of some quite meaningful places. So I just wondered if you could share a little bit about, like, I don't know, 3 things that you wouldn't normally tell people on the first date, but here we are having our first date with all of our
I think
listeners.
I've just told you
Um,
all of the things that I wouldn't normally tell.
maybe.
Yeah, what would I not tell? To be perfectly honest, I'm pretty much an open book with most things. I could try and hide how I feel. I could try and not say what I think, but I genuinely can't do it anymore. I did it.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, Home and Away. Yeah,
Mhm.
love it.
Yep.
Love it. It's
Good.
yeah,
Yep.
I totally keep up with Home and Away. That is my
Nice.
guilty pleasure. And probably the and it's not a guilty pleasure, it's just a total pleasure of listening to any music by Pink. Just makes me happy and raises my
Hmm.
vibe and is just
And
awesome.
chocolate and
And
gin.
chocolate and gin. Yeah,
Yeah.
and rosé now that the
Nice.
sun's coming out. So that's probably me in a nutshell. What about you? What
Yeah.
would you not normally share? What are your guilty pleasures?
Um, oh, I don't know if I have, I don't think you need to feel guilty about having
Ah,
pleasure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So come
Um,
on, what's your guilty
but if
pleasure?
I was going to, if I was going to, um, I'm a real, well, my ex-partner used to call me a book whore, because I just, like, if you give me a good book, I'm done. Like, the rest of the world could explode and I wouldn't notice. So I love to dive into books, of any description, really. Secretly a true crime fanatic. I listen to all the podcasts. I dream of having my own one day. I read all the books. I watch all the shows. I am. Hmm. I also quite like chocolate and gin, which is great. Musically, I've been to Pink's concert. She's phenomenal. She's probably not my go-to. I have really, really eclectic music tastes, so eclectic that my family will either celebrate me or groan like you've never heard in your life when we get into the car, depending on what Spotify playlist I pull out of my
Nice.
phone. Um, so yeah, and I think, I I'm just, I'm a little bit of everything. I'm perfectly okay after many, many years of trying to be something that people expect. I'm perfectly okay with being less of that and more of what feels nice to me.
Ah, good on you.
And so, that's probably where I'm where I'm
Nice.
at the moment, but no doubt you'll learn more about my randomness. I
Yes, there's
am
definitely some
quite
randomness
random.
there, but I enjoy
Yeah.
that. I like random, and that's why we get on so well. So we're
Yeah.
pretty
I
much
also have a really dodgy sense of humor, I
oh,
think.
she's dark. Dark is the only thing I can say there. But we're pretty much out of time now,
Rough.
and I just want to let people know if they want to connect with us, then we've got an Instagram account. So we are Awakening the Wise Woman. That is our business. That is where we do all of the the work and the fabulousness. So at Awakening the Wise Woman is our Instagram handle. We are on Facebook, not that we're there a huge amount. You can connect with me at Ellie Bell Awakening or Erin at Erin Hodson Awakening, and all the links will be somewhere hopefully easy to find. Or check out our website and DM us. Like if you like what you heard today, let us know. If you've got questions for us,
Yeah.
let us know. We really want to
Oh, yeah.
encourage
Questions are good.
encourage that interaction between listeners and us, because at the end of the day we're here to serve what you're after and what you're looking for. So please let us know what you'd like to hear more about, and hopefully you've enjoyed our first ever episode, and we will be back. Yee.
Yeah. Because it's a journey, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. We'll be back next week. So until then, take good care of yourselves and be kind. And yeah, we'll see you then.
See ya.